Hey guys, welcome in. Welcome to the Budget Bros YouTube channel. Super happy to finally get started on this. This is going to be my first video primer that I upload to the channel. This primer in particular is going to be about my first love, Ratadrabik of Urborg. I think he is criminally slept on. I guess to start this whole thing off, I have a really cool history with Ratadrabik. He was my first love. He was my first true love of Magic. Got started in when Ixalan was a thing. So the vampire Orzhov, black-white. It was helmed by Clavellino, first of the Blessed. And I played with that a ton, and then I did kind of what every new player does and just kept on dumping like a dumb amount of like super expensive staples into it. Demonic Tutors, Mondrak, Orzhov. I had the free spells that I could cast in those colors, tons of tutors. It was cool, don't get me wrong, but it was like every like first player new deck. It was super inconsistent. It was a jumbled mess. Some games I did nothing, and then some games it just skyrocketed. So I actually ended up breaking down Clavellino. I broke down the Blood Rights Precon, and then Orzhov colors were already something that I was comfortable with at the time. And aristocratic strategies. So that's what led me to Ratadrabik of Urborg. So I built him from the ground up. He was like my first from scratch deck. I didn't do EDH Rec and all that other stuff. I went to my LGS. I found a bunch of cool Orzhov-y stuff that I couldn't do in Clavellino, and then like put off to the side for Ratadrabik, and just built a deck for him, and then over time upgraded it. And the same I did with Clavellino, but once again something kind of went wrong with that. So it was like one day I was playing a game and it was like the silly little aristocrat, zombie sacrifice token deck. And then it felt like almost the very next day, it just turned into an absolutely disgusting combo machine monster, whatever. Couldn't make it to turn like 5 or 6 without comboing off. And I was a casual player at the time. So, it was just like a feels bad situation for me. I genuinely didn't enjoy the play patterns back then of a combo deck, especially when I wasn't like necessarily going for that. It just happened as a side result. Final straw of that deck, honestly, it was I invited some people over to my house. It was like one of those the community Facebook groups. It was a bunch of like the nerdier people in the neighborhood like myself that were into Dungeons and Dragons, Magic, that kind of thing. I invited them over to my house. Everyone's meeting each other, everyone's making new friends, bullshitting and everything. We get around. I give them a heads up. I'm like, hey, this is the only deck I have right now. It's a little bit stronger of a deck. The LGS that I played at was like consistently like high power budgetless bracket 4, so I didn't quite realize like how strong it was at the time, but I gave him a heads up. It was a stronger deck, and we're sitting down. It gets around to turn 5 or 6. Everyone's kind of doing their thing. We got a guy over here with a precon, and then other dude with like a low power custom build that he did. And I am sitting there with a grip of cards that would make my grandmother roll in her grave. So long story short, I do my turn and everything. And by the end of the turn, I made 200 non-legendary token copies of Shieldred the Apocalypse. One that says when an opponent draws a card, they lose 2 life. So I made 200 non-token legendary copies of that guy, or that chick, and then passed the turn. And since that day, I have been arch enemy of this group. It's all in good fun. We're all like super great friends. One of them runs their own like TCG player store. I buy cards from her all the time. It's my consistent play group. If I'm playing Magic in paper, in real life, not on the computer, those are usually the guys that I'm playing with. But I absolutely earned the arch enemy spot. I converted them all to the dark side that night without even knowing it. After that game, the most disgusting decks started to pop up from them. And I'm not going to lie, every time I'm on the receiving end of like a Lord Xander, the Collector triggers, where it's like, he comes into play and target opponent discards half of the cards in their hand rounded down, and when he attacks, they mill half their library, and it's just like the most like disgusting, brutal stuff. And every time I'm on the receiving end of it, which I usually am, I have the biggest smile on my face. Like it's just this really cool dynamic. So with that out of the way, you know my history with the deck. Let's really get into it. Like, why Ratadrabik of Urborg? I have $100, Nero. Why are you telling me to build this Ratadrabik, this weird Orzhov zombie commander? And if you look at it at face value, that it reads so bad, so bad. You're going to sit down at a table and nobody's going to give you a second look unless they've experienced it before. They will never forget it once they experience it. But he reads bad. Let's kind of go over what he reads and why I say that. So he is a 2 generic, white and a black, legendary creature zombie wizard. He has Vigilance and Ward 2. He has the ability that other zombies you control have Vigilance. And here's the big kicker part. Whenever another legendary creature you control dies, you create a token that's a copy of that creature, except it's not legendary. And it's a 2/2 black zombie in addition to its other colors and types. So what that means is when our legendary creature dies, it still goes to the graveyard. Ratadrabik's going to trigger. He's going to make an exact replica of that creature, except now it's a 2/2 black zombie. At face value, nothing wrong with that. Seems like a cool zombie tribal commander. What splits him wide open and absolutely breaks the game is the ring tempt mechanic. The ring tempt mechanic has like these 5 different effects that you can go through, but the only one that we're really concerned about is that very first one, which says the ring bearer is legendary. So what that allows you to do, and what the purpose behind this deck is we take creatures that have a ring tempt mechanic tied to them. Think Nazgul. I couldn't fit Nazgul in here. A little too pricey for the deck at like $10. But like Boromir, Warden of the Tower. So he says you can sacrifice him. Other creatures you control gain indestructible until end of turn. Also, the ring tempts you. So what you would do in a situation where it's just Ratadrabik and Boromir on the battlefield, which it will be most of the time. He's my most tutored for card in this deck just because he's generically awesome here. You activate Boromir. He sacrifices himself. Ratadrabik makes a token that's a copy of him. And then the original Boromir trigger goes onto the stack, declaring the token as a legendary, and then that opens up the loop where you can repeatedly sacrifice these ring tempters, whether through their own abilities or through sacrifice outlets, and then they just keep on recurring themselves. It opens up a lot of really cool, funky lines. So, Viscera Seer with either Samwise or Gollum is now a 1 mana instant speed top deck tutor that just kind of sits on your board. You can go ahead, find whatever card you want, put it right on top. Undead Augur can essentially act like a Necropotence for us and draw most of our deck. And Altar of the Brood, if that's sitting on the battlefield, Altar of the Brood reads that whenever another permanent enters the battlefield under your control, each opponent puts the top card of his or her library into his graveyard. So in the situation where we only have a Ratadrabik, a Boromir, and an Altar of the Brood, we can completely mill all of our opponents out. And with Altar of the Brood only costing 1 mana, it's very likely that that comes down early game anyways. So I guess since we're tying into that, let's go over the combos. That kind of feeds directly into that. So as I already told you, most of the lines in here are going to operate around that ring mechanic. There's other ways to go with it, but like flavor-wise and just like reigniting my spark for the deck, that's what I wanted to focus on. The first kind of main body of a line that we would ever be going for is going to be Ratadrabik of Urborg plus Boromir, Warden of the Tower, and then any of these following cards. So Altar of the Brood, Vengeful Blood Witch, Elis Ilkor, Sadistic Pilgrim, or Combal, Profiteering Mayor. Any of those interchangeable cards, they either ping or it's mainly that. So they either ping or they mill based on when a creature enters or leaves the battlefield. That should already kind of get the gears spinning. Long story short, you want to have all these things on the battlefield. So let's say we'll have a Elis Ilkor who says that whenever another creature you control enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. And whenever another creature you control dies, each opponent loses a life. So we have Ratadrabik and we have Urborg and Elis Ilkor on the battlefield, which is completely normal. Like you'll just do that throughout a game anyways. But we sacrifice Boromir to his own ability and then start that Ratadrabik loop. And each time we do that, it's going to ping our opponents for 1 and we're going to gain 1. And you can combo out and burn the table out that way. The other ring tempters, they're a little bit different. So with the other ring tempters, you need a sacrifice outlet. You don't want to have to rely on a sacrifice outlet and a pinger. So the ones that I have here specifically for this part of the combo, they fill both roles. They are a payoff and a sacrifice outlet. So Altar of Dementia is a mill payoff, whereas Blasting Station is a damage payoff. And what you'll do is you'll target one of those ring tempting creatures, either Samwise or Gollum, with one of these cards, sacrifice them, start the Ratadrabik loop, and you'll either deal 1 damage to all of your opponents an infinite amount of times, or with Altar of Dementia, you'll mill out their entire libraries. I guess like a little side weird combo is, if you have either of those Ring Tempters in just a Bartolome de Presidio, the backup to the backup to the backup plan, you can sacrifice one of the Ring Tempters an infinite amount of times to Bartolome and then swing with him and then kill somebody with the infinite damage that you placed on Bartolome. And also there are just straight up sack outlets and pingers in the deck as well, i.e. Viscera Seer, Vengeful Blood Witch, that kind of thing. And if you are just playing the game normally and you've assembled a point where you already have a Ratadrabik, the sack outlet, the pinger, and then you go to play either a Samwise or a Golem at that point, that will also burn out the entire table. It's just a longer form of the combo. And I transitioned away from that. The other big combo, I guess, engine that we have here are the Recursion enchantments. I paired those with Abdel Adrian Gorian's Ward and Leonin Relic Warder. If you have either of the Recursion enchantments and then one of those creatures in your graveyard, you'll recur that creature. In Leonin Relic Warder's case, you'll also need either an Altar of Brood or a Pinger on the battlefield. And Abdel's, it kind of just wins at that point because you can generate infinite mana and everything else. To keep it simple, I'll go over the Leonin. If you want to view the full version of this combo, just check out my primer. But the long story short, the Leonin will be in your graveyard, so you'll cast Animate Dead. Animate Dead will target the Relic Warder. When the Relic Warder enters play, it's going to exile that Animate Dead enchantment. The Animate Dead enchantment says that when it leaves play, the creature becomes sacrificed. So then Leonin Relic Warder leaves the battlefield, and then Animate Dead comes back. Well, when Animate Dead comes back, it's going to target the Leonin Relic Warder that's in your graveyard, and then it opens up the loop that way. So an Altar of the Brood or any of the Pinger creatures that we have, the deal 1 damage creatures, any of those will work as well here. So those are the main combo lines. Let's go a little bit into like the individual packages that I put in here. I'm not going to go super deep in them, just kind of highlight some cards. You don't need me to tell you that Dark Confidant's a good card. Dark Confidant is a good card, by the way. So Undead Augur and Morbid Opportunist, I already hinted at Undead Augur. They go burr with this deck and a Ring Tempter in play specifically. Augur turns into a Necropotence, and the Morbid Opportunist nets you an additional 4 cards per rotation. Braid's Arisen Nightmare. She's already a fantastic card in any deck that has black, with the ability to draw 3 cards every single one of your turns. But here in a jam, if you only have Braids and Ratadrabik, well, Braids can sacrifice herself and then she comes right back. Or if Braids is removed because she's such a high value engine, you don't have to worry about it. So it adds a lot of like robustness to an already good card. Owl the Dawn Sky, he is pricey mana wise. I get it. I'm not a fool. It's 5 mana in a highly optimized and tuned deck is crazy a lot of the times, but this guy does so much work in this deck. If you have Ratadrabik, a sack outlet online, and then play an Owl the Dawn Sky, long story short, you can dig 14 cards deep into your deck and grab whatever pieces you need to go ahead and win the game. Special shout out to Caustic Bronco. This is not a sub-dollar card, $1 card in any universe. Read the card and then read it again. It functions like Dark Confidant had a baby with Okame Adversary. It is insanely good. It was like almost up to $6 at one point, and now it is like cents. So definitely put these in your budget decks. They are super good. And then the one tutor that I want to talk about, because tutors are boring, they find the card. If you need the card, they find it and they get it, and then you have it, and that's their entire function. But the one I really like is Final Parting. So it works as a 1-card win con in this deck. So Final Parting reads, search your library for 2 cards, put one into your hand and the other into your graveyard, then shuffle. If you've been listening, you may already have an idea of where we're going with this. I'm going to grab Abdel or Leonin, put them in my graveyard, and then put the enchantments into hand so I can start one of those blink combos up. Touching base on interaction real quick, this is a very stax heavy deck. Stax and spot removal, those are my guys. I'm not really a big fan of the white counter spells, so I didn't get any of those in here. But I have some absolutely damning stax pieces in here, including Aethersworn Canonist, Deafening Silence, Archon of Emeria, and Phyrexian Censor. All rule of law type effects. Hey, you can only play one card a turn, and they will shut down most decks in the $100 budget competitive format. From there, you have Boromir, Warden of the Tower. So he's a two-sided interaction. He's going to not only protect your board, but he also protects. He says whenever an opponent casts a spell, if no mana was spent to cast it, counter that spell. Notably, he says if an opponent, so some cards that we have in here that can function as pseudo-free spells will not be countered. Damping Sphere, everything that Aethersworn Canonist and the Rule of Law crew don't shut down, Damping Sphere will. The land clause isn't too important, so if a land is tapped for 2 or more mana, it produces 1 colorless instead of any other type or amount. So like against like a Gaia's Cradle deck or a mini Cradle deck, that's pretty solid. It's kind of a niche situation, although it is a very popular style of deck in the format. The really kicker part is that it says each spell a player casts costs 1 more to cast for each other spell that player has cast this turn. So that allows people from being able to storm off, essentially. It's just going to shut it down in its tracks, and there's nothing you can do about it. Lethal Scheme is our free spell. Any deck that plays to the board like this one does, and they have access to black, I would recommend taking a look at Lethal Scheme. It's card filtering and removal all in one, and it's free. Lauren of the Third Path, just being able to sacrifice her to double up on the artifact and enchantment removal. One particularly nasty artifact that could shut us down would be like a Cursed Totem. Since we rely so heavily on activated abilities in this deck, that would absolutely shut us down. So being able to double her up is really cool. Touch the Spirit Realm is played heavily in the top tiers of Magic, CEDH. It is not played very heavily at all, even at its price point. In the lower, quote unquote, more casual, even though this isn't built as a highly casual deck, it's meant for high power bracket 4. Long story short, it doesn't see enough play. It is removal tied to uncounterable protection / blink to interrupt a combo or something like that. It is absolutely fantastic and should certainly see some more play. Super quick touching on ramp and recursion. Relic of Legends goes burr. It is fantastic. We have a high density of legendary creatures, and the really cool thing about this card is it doesn't care about the summoning sickness clause. So even if we tap out all of our mana, including Relic of Legends, to play, let's say, Ratadrabik, well, then we can also tap Ratadrabik to add another color of any, because it's the artifact itself that taps the creatures, not the creatures that have the ability. Samwise is obviously one of our main combo pieces, but the fact that you can flash him in at end step and return one of the creatures that died this turn to our hand is absolutely fantastic. And then Savine's Reclamation at base value, not counting flashback, is already going to be able to grab like 90% of our combo enablers out of the graveyard. But if you flash it back, it can pretty much just go ahead and assemble a combo right there. So it's pretty solid. Closing thoughts for you guys. You stayed with me down the journey. Let me talk about my deck. It was insanely fun being able to go back and just show that the first true love I had of Magic, the love and attention that it deserves. I'm a completely different player from when I started out. I don't really play casual games anymore. So being able to just juice this guy up for $100 was so fun. It performs extremely well from all my testing. All of these decks, you guys never have to worry about a goldfish deck coming out for me. You know what I mean? I'm doing extensive testing with these things. I play online a lot. I'm testing it at every single deck a minimum of 10 times before I publish it. And usually by the time it gets to you, it's on version 6 of where I started. The fact that most of our lines and just the combo lines in this deck revolve around creatures that are already generically good in this archetype means that we're not really having dead draw situations, even in the later game. You know what I mean? You're not drawing a card and being like, oh crap, this is useless to me. Each card is going to fill a couple different roles in this deck, so it's a feels good kind of situation. I would say if you're looking for a deck that feels extremely unique and it kind of has the ability to take your opponents by surprise with combo lines that are just not really known about or messed around with, I'd say this is the guy for you. Honestly, I would be hard pressed to recommend anyone outside of Ratadrabik for that situation. Anyways, that's it, guys. This is my first video primer. I hope you genuinely enjoy it. I went on a little long, so hopefully my buddy who's editing this up doesn't kill me. But I tried to keep it as compact and dense as possible. If you want to see a full written version of this primer, it's going to be on my Mox field at Battle Pants. I will have it linked in the description. Also linked in the description is going to be the Budget Pub Stomper Discord. We are a community of people playing $100 budget competitive. If you like the idea of CEDH, but don't like the idea of just running good stuff piles, every best card in the format is in the deck. If you value synergy based games over I have the best card so I win kind of games, we are the place for you. We are always firing off games. Somebody's always talking about a cool new brew that they're doing in the general chat. Please come join us, hang out. I'd love to talk to you. Anyways, guys, this has been Nero/Battle Pants with Budget Bros. I genuinely hope you enjoyed the video. I enjoyed making it. Take care, have fun, and please build this deck.